Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to Vastola on the Law. I am Jeff Vastola, just trying to get my timing right. At the end of the introduction, I am bringing on Facebook Live, so if you are listening by the radio, you can call into the show. You just heard the number. It's 877-850-8585. That will get you live on the air with me. You can ask me any question you want. If I can answer your question, that's exactly what I'll do. I'll answer your question right here and right now. If I cannot answer your question, then I'll do the research I have to do and get back with you the following week. If you are watching via Facebook Live, you can do the same thing. You can call the number if you want, or you can type a question into the screen, and I'll do my best to catch it as it's scrolling up. But we're here every Saturday morning to give you free legal advice for 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Vastola, and I'm an attorney in Florida. I have to remind everybody that my legal advice is only good in the state of Florida. I was talking to somebody earlier in the week who had contacted me. I'm trying to remember what the issue was, but I had to put that disclaimer out there again because this was a person in Florida. This is my beautiful wife logging on. Good morning, Mandy. And the issue, as we got talking about it, turns out was a different state's issue, meaning the lawsuit would have to be brought in another state. The other state's laws could very well be different from Florida, and I'm only licensed in the state of Florida, so I just had to kind of throw that out there. And I'm sorry because I sound like a broken record, and I hate to have to say that, but when the Florida Bar approved my radio show many years ago, it was with the condition that I would only be giving out Florida advice. And so our world has expanded since then. Believe it or not, when my radio show was approved, that was before Facebook even existed. So now I can be giving out free legal advice via Facebook Live, and theoretically it could be internationally, but my advice is only good in the state of Florida. But I will do my best to answer questions no matter where you are. So a couple of things about us. Of course, my law firm is Vastola Legal. We do personal injury, wrongful death work, and we have offices in Palm Beach Gardens, an office in Stewart, and we now have an office in the Keys. Very close to having an office in the Keys, I should say. Our lease is effective April 1. I'll be going down there next week to get everything moved in. And so if you know of anybody that has any kind of an issue down in the Keys, just let them know. We have a website. It's injuredinthekeys.com. If you go to that website, you'll see it forwards to my Vastola legal site. But if you have any questions at all about where we are, what we do, you can do a couple things. You can call me. You can call me anytime on my cell phone. That number is 833-VASTOLA, 833-827-8652. That's 833-VASTOLA. Or you can go to our website, which is vastolalegal.com. And you can also go to injuredinthekeys.com. It goes to the same place. Keep in mind that on April 27th, we have our very first Vastola free legal seminar. We have rented a conference room at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Palm Beach Gardens from 1 to 4 or until we're done. I will be there doing pretty much the same thing I'm doing here on the radio, giving free legal advice within my area of practice, but there will be other specialists there in the room with me to give out other forms of advice. We're going to be doing raffle prizes. We're going to be giving away a set of tires. I'm intending to give away a set of tires to somebody in need. And good morning, Don. I see my long time listener, Don, is on Facebook Live this morning. So if you haven't already done it, please RSVP to let us know if you're planning to attend. That way we've got a pretty decent head count, so we know in advance how much food to cater and that kind of a thing, but there will be food. Drinks, non-alcoholic, of course. So we'd love to have you. It's free. You just show up and get the benefit of this free seminar. And we are strongly encouraging everybody to bring your insurance policies, automobile, homeowners. If you have a business, bring your business policy. Let us take a look at it. I've had several cases where defendants have thought they had coverage based on a general liability policy for their business, but it turns out because they were rendering some form of professional service, because all they had was a generic general liability policy and they didn't have a professional liability policy, they didn't have any coverage. So all kinds of interesting insurance issues are out there. and we are going to be there to explain it all. And most importantly, if you can bring your policies, or specifically your declarations pages, which show the different coverages that you may have, we can tell you, based on what your desires are, whether you are sufficiently covered or not. So that's going to be part of the program. Free legal seminar, April 27th at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Palm Beach Gardens. My topic for the day today is what happens if you're in a car accident, and who's supposed to pay my bills? And the reason why I'm going to be talking about this today is because in 1 week I had 2 different car accidents where people were hurt who don't live in the state of Florida. And the intricacies of automobile insurance is not just difficult in Florida, but it becomes even more complicated when you bring in insurance policies from other states because somebody's here on vacation. So I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking once again about the importance of coverage. And why is that? Well, just yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, had a guy in my office who's in a car accident. It wasn't his fault. And we already had some information in the file. The driver that caused the accident had borrowed a rented vehicle. So not only did they not have insurance on the rented vehicle because whoever rented it didn't opt for the insurance, but the person who rented the vehicle wasn't even the person driving the vehicle. So given those circumstances, there's no way that the rental car company is going to be paying anything for that accident. And the driver, the guy that had borrowed the rented car, got out on foot and ran away from the accident. Now, they ultimately found him and arrested him and all of that, but clearly somebody without any coverage of his own. So, come to find out, the person that came to see me yesterday afternoon had $100,000 of coverage on his policy to protect other people. That's in the form of bodily injury coverage, but he had no uninsured motorist coverage on his policy. He had opted for no coverage to protect himself and his family in the event this kind of an accident happens. And so I'm pointing it out. It doesn't just happen rarely. It happens all the time. So don't sit back and think. Good morning, Gail. That's my mother, my stepmother, Gail, chiming in this morning, and I can't read the whole thing. Thank you. I appreciate that, Gail. But it happens all the time. Don't sit back and think that it's never going to happen to you. You know, if you've watched my show for the last year or two, you know I talk about this all the time because it happens all the time. So be proactive with your insurance. You can come to my free legal seminar and learn more about it, or you can call me and say, all right, Jeff, I've had enough. I've heard you say it enough times. What do I need to do? Call me on my cell phone and I'll make it pretty simple for you. It really is very simple because all you have to do is ask your agent to handle it for you, and they'll do it. And good morning, Terry. I need to speak with your hubby about getting some tires as our raffle prize for my free legal seminar. So I'll be reaching out to him pretty soon. So let me just kind of jump into the first topic. Now, I'll remind you that the phone number to call into the station, if you have a question of your own, is 877-850-8585. I'll keep throwing the number out there because I want you to call. I want you to interrupt me. Yes, I have topics to discuss, but your questions are more important. So call into the show, ask me anything you want. 877-850-8585. All right, so you're in a car accident. And say it's the first time, and this discussion is obviously for people that, are not familiar with how things work in Florida. It's a little kooky because commonsensically you would think, okay, I just got hit from behind while I'm sitting at a red light. This accident is not my fault. This other person's going to have to pay for everything. Well, that's not the way it works in Florida. And some people think that that's not the way it works in Florida because Florida is called a no-fault state. A little bit of a mischaracterization, but the coverage that most people are referring to when they talk about Florida being a no-fault state is that PIP coverage. So just a quick refresher, Florida only requires 2 types of coverage on your automobile policy, but keep in mind that there's anywhere between 12 to 15 types of coverage that you can actually get on an automobile insurance policy. Florida requires 2. Property damage, that's coverage that will pay for property damage that you cause to somebody else's property. So if you cause the accident and you damage somebody else's car, your property damage is going to be used to pay for that car. If you are not paying attention and you take out somebody's mailbox, property damage is going to be used to pay for that mailbox. Now, the other required coverage is the PIP, personal injury protection. That's what a lot of people refer to as being no-fault coverage. And that's because if you're in an accident, whether the accident is your fault or not, your own PIP coverage, if your policy is a Florida policy, is going to pay for up to the amount of coverage that you've paid for, less any deductible. So it's pretty common.
From Stewart.
Okay, I'll pick up Diane in a second. It's very common to have a $10,000 policy of PIP, but a $1,000 deductible. That means you only have $9,000 in benefits. Good morning, Diane. This is Jeff. How can I help you?
Hi, good morning. I have a very sad situation. My uncle was 99 years old. He lived on the East Coast. And when I moved here to Florida from up north, he wanted to move in with me because he was happy where he was. Every time he tried to help out in the house at my cousin's, they stopped him. Like, he rearranged the workbench, and then after that, they said, don't touch our stuff. So after that, it was terrible. All he did was lay in his bed. He came out to eat breakfast, and he laid in his bed all day, and he came out to eat supper, and he never did any projects like he used to live with my mom and me. But
Diane,
she got sick,
Diane,
so we had to ask him to.
Diane,
Yes.
I'm getting the gist.
Yes.
So 99-year-old man, unhappy. We just have limited time. So what's your question?
Okay. He called me up 3 times in the summer wanting to move with me. And I wanted him to. But I wanted to widen the doors for my wheelchair first. So we got delayed. Meanwhile, I tried to communicate with him, to call him. And because he was paying my cousin $3,000 a month in rent, they wouldn't let him talk to me anymore. They broke the communication.
Oh.
So I called Family Services and said, this is not right. They're not letting him talk to me. And so I think they increased his drugs to the point that he couldn't even pay for himself. And what I'm on, my big question to you is, on the Family Services form, they put that I was doing, like they said, I'm also an ex-massage therapist, and they put she is trying to tempt him sexually to come live with her. This is ridiculous. And that really hurt me, and I wondered if there's anything I can do about this entire situation.
Well, potentially, comments like that in my head, automatically trigger what's called a claim of defamation, assuming that was not true. And
Yeah.
obviously it's your 99-year-old uncle. I can't imagine how that would be true in any sense, but, potentially. The answer is potentially, because we have to go through the facts of the case. We have to look at the elements of the cause of action to see if essentially you're checking all the boxes of a cause of action for defamation, which is either libel or slander.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have to check to see what defenses there could be. The ultimate truth to a claim of defamation. The ultimate defense to a claim of defamation is truth, which we know doesn't apply here. But also there are some qualified privileges for statements that are made in confidential forums. And I don't know if comments made to the, Florida Department of Families and Children is a qualified communication or not. So that's something that I'd have to find out for you. But I could see why that comment would be very hurtful to you. So here's what I'd recommend you do, Diane. Just follow up after the show, calling my cell phone. That number is 833-VASTOLA. And, we can talk in more detail about it. I'm sorry to cut you short, but, with such limited amount of time, I just have to get the question out. But
Okay.
I'll be happy to look into that for you,
Thank
okay?
you.
I'm sorry it's happening.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thanks for calling,
Thank
Dan.
you.
All right, and thank you to all of you who are watching via Facebook and chiming in and saying hello. Good morning to everybody. So I was talking about a car accident, and if you'd like to call in the way Diane just did, feel free to do that, 877-850-8585. As you can see, I'll try to answer the question as best I can, and then, obviously I'm going to have to do some research on this one and give you a much better answer the following week. But I'm talking about who pays if you're in a car accident in Florida. So typically, your own PIP coverage is going to pay up to whatever your contracted amount is, less a deductible. far and away the most popular PIP policy in Florida is a $10,000 PIP, and then the deductible of whatever you choose up to $1,000. There used to be a $2,000 deductible, but I think they got rid of that. So what happens is the PIP coverage on your own policy will pay 80% of every bill that the insurance company sees as being reasonable until they've reached that limit of the $10,000 or something less than a deductible. And by the way, if you're a passenger in a vehicle and don't have PIP coverage of your own, the deductible doesn't apply to you. You get the full benefit of a full $10,000 PIP benefit. So let's just say, for example, that you go to the hospital. Hospital generates a bill for $1,000, and the insurance company says, "Well, we only think $100 of that is reasonable." This is a hypothetical. So when the insurance company deems $100 reasonable, they have to pay 80%. So the insurance company will pay $80, which of course leaves you with a $920 deficit because you've been to the hospital. The hospital is going to bill you regardless. So you still owe the hospital $920, according to my hypothetical. But there are other insurances that come into play that can help pay off that, nip away at that balance or pay it off completely. And that is medical payments coverage, which is an optional coverage that you can get on an automobile policy. That will pay the 20% that the PIP doesn't pay. You can also use your health insurance. So if you are a person that has health insurance, including Medicare, including Medicaid, that can be used to help offset that difference that the PIP and perhaps the MedPay doesn't pay. So that's how it typically works in Florida. But I found out a week ago in handling a couple of new car accidents that came into the office that in the state of Michigan, the standard automobile policy up there has what they call unlimited PIP, which is something I've never heard of. I've never had somebody from Michigan here in the state of Florida get into an accident and use their own insurance policy to help pay for their insurance, their medical services. Well, I found out up in Michigan, an accident in Florida is covered with unlimited PIP, which is very, very unique. By the way, the state of Florida is very, very close to getting rid of the no-fault system, the system of using PIP coverage, because most states have gone the way of making the bodily injury coverage mandatory. That way, no matter who causes the accident, you have bodily injury coverage on your policy, similar to property damage, so that you can pay for the injuries of anybody that you might hurt. So it's kind of quirky that in Florida, that Florida requires the property damage coverage to do that, for you to pay for property damage you cause, but it doesn't require the bodily injury coverage, which would require you to pay for bodily injuries you cause. But hopefully that'll change soon, at least in my mind. The losing PIP coverage is going to affect a lot of the medical industry, and that's certain. But now, what happens if you're from North Carolina and you're down here on vacation and you get into an accident? Well, come to find out, North Carolina has no PIP. And so I was learning that this week. Somebody that lives in North Carolina has a North Carolina automobile policy, was down here in Florida on vacation, got into an accident, wasn't her fault. Contact the insurance company, come to find out they don't have PIP. So North Carolina is one of these states that have gone the way of the majority, and they just operate on the bodily injury system. The problem is, especially if you're a North Carolina resident, be very, very careful if you're listening to my show. Make sure you have uninsured motorists, because they do have that in North Carolina. Because if you're from, here's another hypothetical. You're from North Carolina, so you have a North Carolina policy. You're down here in Florida on vacation, and you're involved in an accident with a driver that doesn't have bodily injury coverage. And if you don't opt for the UM coverage, you don't have one red cent to pay for your medical care. I take that back, because the other driver's PIP in that instance, in that scenario, and if you're an insurance adjuster and you can chime in here, that would be fantastic. But I believe in that scenario, the other driver's PIP would pay for the first $10,000 of medical care, because the way the PIP statute is written is that if a person is injured that does not have PIP of his own, for example, a pedestrian that doesn't own a car, if you're hit on a bike and you don't own a car, you don't live with anybody that owns a car, then the PIP of the driver that struck you would pay benefits. So I think in that situation, the hypothetical I created for myself, I think the law would say, okay, because there is no PIP on the other driver, the driver at fault would have to pay for that. So anyway, when you're here on vacation, just understand that it may not work the way it always works here in the state of Florida, but we've been able to navigate those waters for both of those clients. They're both well on their way to getting the treatment that they need to get the best physical recovery that they can get. And if you're in the same boat and you'd like to talk to me, you can call me anytime. You can call me here on the show, 877-850-8585, or you can call me anytime after the show. My cell phone is 833-VASTOLA. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused with all the phone numbers. 833-827-8652. That's 833-VASTOLA. You can call me anytime you want. If I can pick up the phone and talk to you, I will. If I don't pick up the phone, leave me a message and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And I want to thank everybody for watching on Facebook Live. I do have a few minutes. So let me just mention to you that if you are a motorcyclist and if you're wondering, you know, do I need insurance on my motorcycle? For some reason, and I don't understand this, PIP is not required on a motorcycle policy. So that makes no sense to me. I can't explain it. Maybe somebody else can. Maybe one of my insurance friends will be able to explain that for us. But I just wanted to mention to you that if you have a vehicle and a motorcycle, and you obviously have a policy of insurance on your car, you can opt for stacked UM coverage, and that stacked UM coverage will automatically apply to your motorcycle. So another way to protect yourself for those people that ride motorcycles. I also wanted to mention some of the other benefits of the personal injury protection, because I talked a lot about how it pays for 80% of all reasonable medical services up to the contracted amount. It also pays a lost wage benefit. So if you're involved in a car accident and you know that you're not going to be able to work for some length of time, you can carve out a portion of your PIP benefits for lost wages, and it will pay at 60%. So if you make $1,000 a month, you can carve out $600 a month of your PIP benefits to be paid to you directly, as opposed to 80% being paid to your doctors or the hospital or wherever you went. And lastly, PIP benefits will also pay for a death benefit. It pays a $5,000 death benefit if somebody is killed in a car accident. Now, so it basically does three things: medical services, lost wages, death benefit. But included in that medical services bucket is a lot of other things that sometimes people don't consider. If you're having difficulty getting to your doctor's appointments, please know that you can use your PIP coverage to pay for transportation to and from your visits. It just has to be properly documented and submitted to the PIP, and they'll pay 80% of your Uber charges or whatever it may be. So keep that in mind as well. And there's a lot of physician practices out there that will actually handle the transportation issues for you. So if you're not set up with that, if you're finding it difficult to get to your appointments, then inquire with the doctor's office to say, look, can you help me get to and from my appointments? Because obviously it's going to benefit both of you. First, you, primarily, your main concern needs to be getting the best physical recovery that you can get. But secondly, the physicians are obviously going to benefit by you making your appointments instead of being a no-show. So, good morning, Rick. Appreciate you watching the show. Today we're talking about how does Florida's automobile insurance apply in an accident, and what happens if you're not from Florida. So I've covered those issues. Here's a PSA. I'm reading through my Florida Law Weekly this morning, getting ready for my show. I've got about 2 minutes left. And perhaps you've heard of that surgical procedure that was becoming very common in Florida and probably elsewhere, the Brazilian butt lift. Well, if you follow the news, you know that Florida tragically had a couple of incidents where women were undergoing the Brazilian butt lift procedure, and either during or immediately after the procedure, they passed away because of complications from the procedure. Well, they've done some research into the procedure, and they've found scientifically that it's essentially a pretty dangerous procedure, where the removal of the fat from certain portions of the body and replacing them in other portions of the body, well, basically it was causing pulmonary emboli, which is basically a blood clot that goes into the lungs, which was essentially causing these women to die because they're very fatal. And so back on March 2nd of 2020, I didn't know this until I read this, but I just thought I would pass this along. The Florida Board of Medicine issued an emergency rule that prohibits physicians from injecting fat into the intramuscular or submuscular region of a patient's gluteal area. Essentially, they outlawed the Brazilian butt lift procedure. So if you're out there talking to a physician wanting to have this done, be mindful that in Florida,
1 minute.
it's now illegal to have this procedure done, and only for your benefit because it's very dangerous. Very dangerous. That's about all I have to share with you today. Obviously, more stuff that I never seem to get to, and I apologize for that. I know I always taunt you guys with cases from my Florida Law Weekly that I never seem to get to, but if you'd like to call me on my cell phone, the number is 833-VASTOLA. That's 833-827-8652. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll see you at the boat show. God bless. Thank you, Sharina, for all your help this morning. And Diane, if you're still listening, go ahead and give me a call. We'll talk more, okay? All right. God bless everyone.